Hey guys, welcome back and welcome if you're new here. My name's Sarah. I make videos every single week here on YouTube talking about my health journey with things like acne, my gut health issues and my hormonal health, all which I believe are very much interlinked. I thought it'd be fun today to show you what I have for breakfast because I believe breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It is definitely my favourite meal too, and I want to show you a little bit about what I eat at different points in my cycle to help me balance my hormones. So just to give you a little bit of a brief history on my hormonal health, I was on the contraceptive pill for the best part of about 12 years, and in 2015 I actually attempted to come off it the first time and really struggled to get my period back. So since then I have been super interested in holistic health and using nutrition really to support hormonal health, whether that be to alleviate period issues, whether that be PMS, actually having a regular cycle, acne, which is definitely linked to my hormones as well, and also gut health issues, which I do believe are kind of tied together as well. So I thought it would be fun to share with you some of my favourite breakfast recipes that I eat on a very regular basis at different points in my cycle and explain a bit about why I eat them and when I eat them. I also want to shout out a book called The Woman Code, which I read 5 years ago and it's always really kind of stuck with me. It's by Elisa Vitti, I might be saying her name wrong, and I really love that book, and it's a great idea and a great kind of plan that she's put together about eating for your cycle, and not just eating but the things that you should be doing throughout your cycle, because day by day and week on week we go through different phases of our cycle, different hormonal fluctuations, and supporting that basically helps us to feel our best. So these recipes are just suggestions and they're just things that I really enjoy eating, but obviously you might want to kind of switch them up depending on your mood, how you exercise, how you're feeling that day. This is definitely not set in stone on things that you definitely should eat. Have a little bit of fun with it. This is just what I like to do. So I'm going to start with day one, or week one really, of your cycle, which is menstruation. So when you actually start your period. So during this time, I don't know about you, but I'm always really after kind of comfort food, things that are really going to boost my mood, support my kind of energy levels. And so for this week, I regularly stick to oats, and oats are my favourite food. I'm not even going to lie. My boyfriend thinks I'm super weird that I think of porridge as like a treat, but honestly, it is really one of my favourite foods. So in this recipe, I've used jumbo oats. So they are super slow releasing in terms of carbohydrates. So for example, if you eat these earlier on in the day like you would do for breakfast, they're going to really sustain you for a good few hours, so you're not going to be grazing and snacking on other things. You're going to be satiated and full for longer. But of course oats on their own are super boring. No one would want to eat them without any toppings, I imagine. So the first thing that I love to add is milled seeds and nuts. So I love this mix, and in this one by Linwood's is flax seeds, almonds, Brazil nuts, walnuts and a coenzyme. So yeah, really great for your gut health as well. Now, buying them milled is a little bit more expensive, but the reason I like to do that is because it helps your digestion if all of these kind of nuts and seeds are broken down. So if you just add them in their whole form, yes, they're going to be super nutritional still, but it does mean that there's a little bit more work to do for your gut, which is already trying to break down the oats, so I would bear that in mind. I then like to add my favourite ingredient, which is cinnamon. Firstly, I just love the taste of anything cinnamon. It is one of my favourite ingredients, but also it's great for lowering your blood sugar levels, or stabilising your blood sugar levels, I should say, which is super important for hormonal health, because if we are constantly having spikes in blood sugar, it means that more insulin is being released, and insulin is actually a hormone, and obviously our bodies are all one organism, maybe not organism, we're all one whole thing, right? So if one hormone is kind of kicked out of balance, it does have a cascading effect on our others, and in particular testosterone. I find if my blood sugar levels are not stable, my testosterone does spike, and I do notice that on my skin in particular. I find around ovulation, when our testosterone is naturally higher, my skin will break out a lot more if my blood sugar levels are not balanced. And it's not just food that can throw off your blood sugar levels. Lack of sleep, stress, they all play into that as well. So having cinnamon in your porridge when you're on your period is not only a tasty ingredient, but it's also adding a lot of benefit to what you're eating. So I also like to add fruit because it's super yummy, and my favourite fruit is blueberry and raspberries. One, because I just love the taste of them, as always. That's a really key running theme throughout all of this. Please don't force yourself to eat things you don't actually like the taste of, because what is the point in life? You should enjoy your food. But secondly, they are also very low glycemic, meaning that they won't cause those big blood sugar spikes. And my last ingredient, I have to admit, is definitely my favourite, and that is dark chocolate. And of course, around your period, I don't know about you, but I'm always craving chocolate, and it is one of my favourite snacks. So I like to incorporate it in my breakfast as well. Why not? Not only is it a really great mood booster because it has a very small amount of caffeine, which can actually help your energy levels and make you feel good, particularly at that time of the month, but it's also packed with magnesium, and magnesium is such an important micronutrient, especially around your period, because obviously you're cramping quite a lot, which is, you know, all part and parcel of having your period, but the magnesium will actually help to relieve some of those symptoms, help to relieve some of that pain, and really help to promote a healthy period. So then I add a bit of plant milk. I personally don't like dairy cow's milk. I don't believe that it's super bad for you or anything like that. that. It's just a preference. I don't like the taste anymore. I've just got so used to plant milk over the last 5 years. It would be really hard for me to revert back. But yeah, in this video I used almond milk. That's definitely my favorite for porridge, or sometimes oat milk. So I either mix that all together in a bowl and put that in the microwave, or if I've got a bit more time, I will put that in a saucepan on the stove and give that a good mix and let it kind of cook really slowly. Also, a little tip with this recipe that I wasn't doing before is actually adding the chocolate at the end after the whole porridge has been cooked. I find that the chocolate kind of feels a bit more creamier and thicker that way. If you're going to try this recipe, please leave me a comment and tell me how much you love it as well, because it's honestly one of my favourites. We all need a reason to look forward to our period, right? So the next stage of your cycle is your follicular phase, which is where your egg is being released from the fallopian tubes into the uterus, and that is where hormones do start to increase. Lots of them, so including things like estrogen, progesterone, they're all on the up at this point. So you're going to have a lot more energy. So for this reason, I do try and work out as much as I can during that week. That tends to be when I enjoy kind of bigger workouts, like going for runs, bigger HIIT workouts, rather than like yoga and going for long walks. So to match that, I like my breakfast to be super high in protein to really kind of aid any kind of muscle recovery. And so eggs are always my favorite choice at this time of the month. So for this recipe, I like to use chestnut mushrooms. I love the flavor of these in eggs. I sauteed them in a little bit of butter because that's packed full of vitamins like A and K, which are fat soluble. And then I also like to add a little bit of spinach as well. I like to get my greens into my omelette as well. And all these ingredients are packed full of nutrients. And I also like to add a little bit of cheddar cheese because I do like to make sure that there is enough calories in my morning breakfast to sustain me. As well as that, I just think it tastes great, right? Cheese is a little bit of a worry sometimes for some people, particularly if you're dealing with hormonal health and skin issues. For me, I used to always really avoid dairy, and it's only been over the last sort of year or two where I've been tracking my journal. I created the Skinstory Journal, where there is a food tracker, and I kind of tracked dairy for a long time actually to really see if it had any negative impact on my skin, on my gut health, or my hormonal health, and I really couldn't see a correlation. The only thing that I could see is if I ate a lot of lactose, then I could see gut health issues and I could see that play up on my skin. But for the most part, cheddar is fairly low in lactose, like most hard cheeses are. So yeah, I don't really have a problem with it. If I only use a little bit in my omelette, it seems to be absolutely fine. If you're also trying to get to the root cause of your skin issues, then I would really recommend tracking in a journal like this. That's why I created this Skinstory Journal. It is available to purchase, so I will leave the link in the description box if you want to check it out. But even if you don't purchase this one, I would really recommend either keeping a food diary, or if you do have some suspicions about some triggers, whether that be stress, sleep, exercise, whatever that might be, definitely keep a journal and see for yourself what actually causes your breakout. Because I know firsthand how out of control you can feel when your skin is really breaking out and you can't get your period back, and all those things were going on for me. And actually kind of taking back control and really understanding your skin, for me anyway, has been so impactful positively. I really do understand my skin now. I totally get why I break out when I do, and yeah, it's made me relax around things. So if I do get the odd spot, or if I do break out a little bit, I know it's going to clear up. I know what I need to do to get myself kind of back on track and feeling good. So yeah, I would really recommend it if you are looking to clear your skin, balance your hormones and help your gut health. So yeah, I'll leave that, as I said, down below. Oh, and I also want to add that with the omelette, I also like to have a side of fermented veggies. I make my own sauerkraut and I ferment my own pickles, so I will have a little side of that as well, which is super helpful for your gut health. They are packed full of good bacteria, so that can really help populate your gut microbiome with those friendly microbes that actually support all of your health, not just your hormonal health. I'm actually super lazy when I make my omelette, so instead of actually mixing the eggs in a bowl and then pouring them over the sauteed mushrooms and spinach and cheese, I just mix it all in the pan together. I feel like it tastes exactly the same. Season it with a little bit of salt and pepper and it is good to go. Super quick, super easy, and it tastes amazing. So the next phase is ovulation, and like I mentioned before, that is where our testosterone tends to spike. So during this phase of my cycle, I really want to make sure that my blood sugar levels are managed. So I want to make sure that I've got a ton of healthy fats, and I want to make sure that I'm including ingredients like cinnamon, which help to balance out your blood sugar levels. And the reason that you want those healthy fats, because if you were to take carbohydrates on their own, even if they're slow releasing, you're going to see a bit of a spike. When you're having a fat and a protein with your carbohydrates, you're going to see that it's going to be a little bit more of a curve for most people. This is not for everyone, and this is not 100% fact. It is just how a general pattern would be seen amongst like the general population. So I think it's a really great idea to really take your carbs, your proteins and your fats, particularly around ovulation, and make sure you're having a very full, satisfied meal, but making sure that you're not having these big spikes with tons of fruit or tons of carbohydrates. So this recipe is cinnamon and nutmeg roasted sweet potato. I put an egg on top and I also put a little side of sauerkraut. And this combination tastes so good. My boyfriend always thinks it's really weird, but I promise you it tastes amazing. So for this, you want to melt down a little bit of coconut oil. It's great to incorporate coconut oil, not in huge quantities because it is a saturated fat. Same with things like butter, particularly if you're having eggs at the same time, but great to have a little bit in your diet. So whilst that's kind of melting down in the oven, whilst it's preheating, and then chopping up a sweet potato. You could also do this with butternut squash, which I've done quite a few times in the past. I just think I prefer the texture of sweet potato. Does anyone else find this with butternut squash? Sometimes the texture is just a little bit off for me. Like, I do enjoy eating it on like an occasion, but sometimes if I eat too much of it, yeah, I just go off it. I don't know why. I know that sweet potato is so similar, but I just prefer that kind of fluffy potato texture. But yeah, try both and see how you like it. Oh, and of course the sauerkraut, which I homemade, like I said. This is actually so easy to do, guys. Like, for a long time, I really didn't know how to ferment my own vegetables. I thought it sounded super difficult, but to be completely honest with you, I've made this a few times now and it could not be easier. I actually have a whole highlight on my Instagram showing you exactly how to do this. So if you want to find out how to ferment your own vegetables for great hormonal health, gut health, just supporting your health in general really, and as I said, tastes really, really good, then head over to my Instagram, which is Sarah_Skinstory, and the first highlight is my sauerkraut recipe. Now, the last phase is the luteal phase, and during this time, my mood really tends to feel quite low. Like, I'm not saying my PMS symptoms are super awful, they do fluctuate from month to month, but it does tend to feel like the time of the month where, yeah, I don't feel my best. So one of my recent favorites is super low maintenance and it takes all of about 5 minutes, I'm not even joking, and also it tastes really, really good and it's quite comforting. It's a little bit more carby, but it also has the healthy fats in there and also has really great ingredients for your gut health, and that is grilled tomatoes and a fried egg on sourdough bread. And I'm just gonna put it out there, I actually made this sourdough bread all by myself. It's probably my proudest moment, I'm not even joking. I was so excited when the sourdough loaf came out of the oven. So of course I wanted to show it off in this video. But yeah, sourdough is a really, really great alternative to just regular breads. I am trying for the most part to be gluten-free. If you didn't see my video on my gluten-free experience, I did upload that last week, so I will link it up here or in the description box, so go and check that out if you are also thinking about giving up gluten to support your health for whatever reason, then maybe that video can help. So the reason sourdough is tolerated a lot better than regular bread is because we're not using baker's yeast, we're actually fermenting our own yeast. This really is the most natural source of like a rising agent in your bread. So you ferment this kind of sourdough starter, it's called, so you get the flour and the water and you're essentially fermenting that for a few weeks before you actually start to use this in your bread recipe. Super delicious, very time consuming, quite complicated, but once the bread loaf is there, I chop it up, I can put it in the freezer or I can put it in the fridge and I can use that as toast for this recipe. So this is all I do. I get a bit of olive oil, I brush it onto the sourdough and I griddle it or I toast it. It tastes amazing. And at the same time, I also fry an egg, fry some tomatoes, put that all on the plate, and honestly, super easy. It takes literally 5 minutes. Tastes amazing, and it's also doing a lot of good things for your hormonal health. Like I said, the eggs, the olive oil, all of those things are helping to stabilize your blood sugar levels, which I keep banging on about, but it's super important for hormonal health. Eggs are also a great source of vitamins, so really you're going to need those and all kind of nutritional support around this time of the month as well. It also helps to boost my mood because I find bread really comforting. I also find eggs really comforting, and it's got that tangy taste of the tomatoes as well, which is, yeah, all in all, just a really, really lovely way to enjoy breakfast at home. It kind of feels like you're having brunch out, to be honest. It feels a little bit bougie than like your average omelette. So yeah, I really like to do this and I think you'll enjoy it as well. So like I said, if you're also trying to clear your skin or you're trying to balance your hormones and want to keep track of things that are working, things that maybe aren't working, and really find your triggers, then definitely check out the Skinstory Journal where it's got the food tracker. So when you are eating these recipes, you can note them down and see for yourself if they're working for you. So now that you've seen what I eat for breakfast, I would definitely recommend checking out what I eat in a day. I created a whole video about this a couple of weeks ago. Definitely worth checking out so you can get some more inspiration for recipes. I will leave a box up on screen, so go click that, check that out, and I will see you over there. Thanks guys.